Here we go, spawning up at the top right, representing Team GP. Can he keep the miracle alive? It is Ryung in the blue.
His opponents in the red for Katowice Gaming. Taking a map off Dark earlier, he is Time.
And we've got something pretty interesting right out of the gate. I talked about how, you know, the gas first one racks expand, or just one racks expand, is uncommon, and one racks expand versus one racks expand in this current meta is extremely uncommon. What do we see? Once again, this is now the second time that you and I have cast a TBT where both players have opened up with this one racks expand with the gas, this time with a gas first. It was a gas first versus a barracks gas before, but this is so interesting to see them, both players, confident that they're not going to get proxy raxed.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a reason that build that the standard build in TBT has become so popular. It kind of holds off everything, but also it is very middle of the road steadfast. It's not quite as greedy as a Reaper expand. It's not quite as aggressive as a proxy rax or say a gas first. So what that means is that these players in Katowice, with it all on the line, again, the winner of this series most likely moves on. Well, you're gonna look for the advantages. You're gonna put a coin in the build order casino, maybe hope to come up aces and make something happen. Find yourself 5% in the lead after the early game with players of this caliber. That can make or break a series.
Oh, it certainly can, and it oftentimes does. Now, we are going to be seeing Ryung. I think he's going to go for this Reactor Hellion setup that he's gone for. Once again, 6 Hellions. It allows you to skip any gas production besides that first Reaper. Seems to keep you pretty safe. Against Special, it was mostly Marines. He wasn't able to get anything done, but he still, you know, forced out that early auto turret from the Raven from his opponent. What do we... Oh, wow. We're seeing mirrored builds. Has either of them scouted? No. No, neither of them is scouted, and they're doing mirrored builds. What?
Okay, so Time, he is a Chinese player, but he's a member of Katowice Gaming. He does play for a Korean team. We do know that through the WTL, at the very least, Time has played. I don't know if he ever played for Ryung, but Time has, of course, played a bunch of Korean Terrans. We know Ryung is kind of this thought leader in how Terran gets played. Maru taking a lot of ideas from him. Maybe this is just Ryung's idea of TVT series plan is like percolated through the East Asian scene, maybe a little bit more. I mean, that's maybe, I don't know, because this is not really how Time has been, or Ryung has been playing. So it's not, I don't think this is a perspective counter necessarily. Although maybe it's one of those things where Ryung knows that Time knows that the way to beat the way Ryung was playing is how Time chose to play now. So Ryung goes for the same thing.
I don't know, but this is the first time I've seen this build like as just a macro play. And it's so funny to see that both players have mirrored each other exactly. It's very interesting to me. We're going to see Ryung outmaneuvering this position. He just might, but the concave is a little bit better for Time. However, with the kind of initiative, he forces his opponent back. Doesn't want to commit though, and kind of a wise decision to back away, but now he definitely doesn't want to commit, as he would be attacking into a slight concave, which would have it's a slight concave, but it would be a significant advantage if they were to actually fight.
Yes, this is true. And I'm sorry, I said a Chinese team or a Korean team. I meant a team filled with Koreans. As Katowice, of course, is a Chinese team playing in the WTL. Time, or excuse me, Ryung, he has his third base on the way, just around the same time that Time is. I love and hate casting Time for that stochastic trap that you get stuck into. But for now, feels like these players, they're going to handshake a little bit. It's the early game TVT, PvP is a similar scenario often, where it's somewhat hard to break an opponent. We're going to see Ryung look to shark around a little bit, put some pressure on. But, well, actually, in fairness, Ryung has gotten a lot of damage early, and he's going to catch these Hellions on the map. And with this cycle here, that is a lot more DPS in this army.
Yeah, it's just going to be a matter of one pushing the other off the map. We do have I think he's just trying to get map control so that Time doesn't see this move coming with the double Ravens for the auto turrets. But it does mean that if Time were to go across the map with his own Hellions, I mean, Ryung's got the siege tank. He's about to have another one. Yeah, no, there's not going to be much that could be done. So it will be just these auto turrets, and we're going to have Ryung going for the move that happened to him earlier, the snipe on Stim. This is something I believe Special did to him earlier. Now it will cost him at least one Raven. Is that worth it?
Wait, okay, yeah, the Vikings should find this one on the left. There we go.
Oh, did he? Oh, he lost both. He lost both Ravens. Oh, nice job from Time. Very nice job from Time, using the Cyclone to make sure that it was zoned out. And actually, what just died? Did something just die? Nope. Nope, it was just a couple units. Oh, does find a couple SCVs. That's the threat of these Hellions. Actually, quite a few. That's a significant number.
Yeah, but now he's got to get out of here. He's getting chased down. This army of Ryung feels like most of it will go down. And again, I don't know that Ryung is getting the cost effective. Actually, at the end of the day, it's just about equal. 1,000 resources, 1,000 resources. Ryung, his third base is going to be a little bit faster. And the time that Ryung has bought himself by sniping Stim, well, it just means now that Time is going to get Stim at the same time Ryung will. And what does Ryung get out of this? Well, his 1-1 upgrades are going to be faster. His bio is going to be able to fight a lot stronger. And Time, he's kind of pulling a Byun here. He's forgetting his +1 armor.
Yeah, that's actually a big deal right there and could have massive implications for the rest of the game. There is a significant upgrade timing lead for Ryung, but these Ravens, there's so much energy on these Ravens for Time. Not only does he have them and his opponent doesn't, they are maxed out pretty much. That's going to be, how many auto turrets is that going to be? That's going to be 7 auto turrets right now. It's going to be 4 interference matrices. It's going to be, you know, anti-armor missiles. There's so much here that Time can currently do. Ryung, he is still denying this mining with just these Hellions that are left over. And this is starting to become a problem. Stim, oh, it's about to complete. There's those interference matrices. But look, Ryung unsieged the tanks just before they came in. What an amazing move from Ryung. And that is going to allow him to save these tanks. He does need to save the command center, though. That is super important.
It's over dead airspace. You can't repair that. Third base goes down, and everything you said is true, Steadfast. And the only thing that Ryung's going to be happy about right now is he's going to not quite find another mineral line. So at least the income is going to be somewhat similar. But even the income, the army supply, Ryung had a big lead for a second, but it was in all these units that don't really matter. Massive moves for Time.
If he gets the save on that command center, I am loving Ryung's position right now. Even though he's down in the Ravens. But with the loss of that third command center, things get so unpleasant for him. He is going to have to take advantage of, to be fair, a very big blunder from Time. But he is going to have to take advantage of this 1-1 versus 1-0 situation that he's got. Ravens will not have energy at the moment. There is still a Viking lead for Time, which is going to be very beneficial for him. Sensor tower, it's going to get picked off by Ryung. That's a very nice little find. Of course, those are not cheap.
That it is, but this positioning that Ryung is finding himself in, it's not going to be one where he can push on through. So yes, he knows he has an upgrade lead. There was a moment when he had 2, but because Time is only on 3 bases right now, it is so difficult for him to get pushed into. He only has 1 angle really that he has to defend against. It's why TVT tends to be a longer matchup. It takes 4, 5, 6 bases for Ryung to maybe find a crack that he can wedge into. Yeah, sometimes it ends early because 5 tanks siege up on a main base, and, well, the defender cannot break. But Ryung, he's kind of slowed down his +2. His armory timing is extremely late compared to when his upgrade's finished. And that means that Time, even as his +1 armor only getting started right now, he's going to have an upgrade lead when that +2 finishes.
Yeah, there's going to be a 2-1 versus 1-1 timing, and as long as Ryung starts up as 2-2, he will be able to, shortly after that, assuming he survives, find himself with a 2-2 versus 2-1 timing. And we should have a very interesting kind of leapfrogging of the upgrade advantages up until they're both at 3-3, assuming the game goes on. So there will be a lot of points of strength and weakness for these players. As it is right now, though, Time has a significant economic lead. He's got his 4th base as Ryung has resecured his 3rd. Ryung doesn't even have these gases yet at this base. Ryung, he's down a lot in terms of economy, and he really needs to make something happen, or, well, no, that's it. He needs to make something happen.
The interesting thing is because Ryung has been not dropping as many scans and has been muling a little bit heavier to try to make up with things. We're seeing him occasionally move up a little bit in total income every so often. But as you said, 2-2 is on the way. That timing is going to be fine eventually. And Ryung actually, he's in an interesting spot here. He's going to find a bunch of the tanks on siege and getting a nice shot there. One volley. Actually, he's got a big surround. He's got to take advantage of it. He's got to get first siege, but that is just too much Terran for Ryung to really fight into.
It sure is. It's a lot more Vikings now. Okay, Time really wants to lose this Viking. That Viking, oh God, somebody get him some help. That was not ideal. We are going to be seeing the no watchtower hold for Ryung, so he technically doesn't know where this army is. He can infer, and he's going to be able to check a potential siege up on this base with some nicely placed tanks. Oh my goodness, but we're going to be seeing a move through the middle. He sieges up his tanks, but the interference matrices, the Ravens, they're back at full energy. That is going to be a massive cleanup for Time. All the tanks of Ryung are going to fall, and Time takes a gigantic supply lead in this game.
Yeah, Time has defined, or excuse me, Ryung has defined his run in this tournament thus far by how he can find these miracle engagements time after time after time again. And he thought he'd found one there, stemming into the natural, finding off a bunch of tanks, but Time was in the perfect spot. He collapsed. He knocked down the massive engagements and instead took a beautiful one of his own. And now that lead that Time has had, it is increasing, it is increasing, it is increasing. 2-2 for Ryung is now done, so his Marines, they're just a little bit better, but of course, Time already +3 on the way, building more and more command centers. His economy going like gangbusters, so it's not even like Ryung can easily macro back into a max out.
No, this is looking really tough for him right now. We are going to see Time stimming on forward. There's more tanks for Time. He's got a lot of units. Ryung actually going to try and get in on top of these tanks. He does have a big enclave of Marines, but he is going to lose the majority of them, even losing the full medevac right there. Nice job from Time with the snipe. He just doesn't give Ryung the time, we're not getting away from that he needed to recover and find a way back in. Ryung's back on 4 bases, and that's great. But Time is really pushing the issue here. Ryung's great little maneuver does pick off 2 tanks at the front, and that is the kind of thing that does kind of start you towards a hold. The problem is the starport transition for Time. He's already got Ravens on the way. He's already got Orbit Reactor. He's going to try and push through. This is maybe not the move from Time. Does end up losing a few units in Ryung. He is going to be able to get in on top of these tanks, but the reinforcements of Time show up and will protect them. A nice little boost to the side. Oh, I love that maneuver from Time.
Yeah, Steadfast. One thing we got to look at, the massive tank lead that Time had, he was like 11 versus 3. It's not quite there anymore. Vikings got to be very careful. So the tank leads are somewhat equal. That much is good for Ryung, but he lost a lot of SCVs in that attempted hold, and he does not have the positioning. Yes, the game is about how much stuff you have, but TVT in particular, it is the great chess match. It is somewhere where having less stuff in a better position is absolutely going to serve you much better than having more stuff in a bad position. And unfortunately for Ryung, he has less stuff and he's in a bad position here. So he's going to drop on top of the tank, but it's just a full medevac. He didn't repair it all the way. GG Time knocks down Ryung in game 1.
What a great game number 1. We saw a pretty nice maneuver from Time to give himself a solid advantage, but unfortunately wasn't able to multitask quite well enough, didn't get the repair on that command center that he needed, didn't pull it to the correct location. If he does, and he kills all the SCVs that he does, I'm really liking Ryung's position at that point.
Yeah.
It was. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, no, I am as well. And on top of that, Steadfast, I think we talked about this before we got into game 1, but if Ryung wins this series, or if Time wins this series, this will be the first time in quite a while that Time has knocked down Ryung. Ryung has won 4 of the last 5. In general, Ryung is 5-1 in Legacy of the Void in series against Time here. So this is not only a setup where, wow, Time is fighting for his life to move on to the next round, not only a setup where maybe Ryung had a shot to come back, but Ryung has owned Time over the last couple of years. So him winning this series would be an even bigger setup than we've made it out to be.
It sure would. It sure would. And it is worth noting that it would be... It's a really great example of his evolution. because Time has been a player that I remember seeing him swing onto the scene in, maybe 2017, 2018, and thinking to myself, oh, this guy's pretty good at 2-base pushes. Has great positioning. He builds his turrets in nice locations. He's a solid player, but it's really only TVP that he looks scary. And his TVZ was a little lacking. TVT was a little bit, it's always a funky matchup. You can win with good positioning and whatnot. And then his play started expanding. I'll expand on this a little bit more as we get into game.
All right, game 2.
And here we go, spotting up at the top left. Looking to punch his ticket into the round of 16. Representing Katowice Gaming, it is the Chinese player Time. In the red.
His opponent in the bottom right in the blue, fighting for a chance to continue on in this group. He is, for Team GP, Miracle Man, Ryung.
And to just continue my thought right there. So yeah, when Time first pulled up onto the scene, he looked good. But yeah, like I said, a little bit one-dimensional, kind of not that scary of a player overall. And then, he started getting better at doing 2-base pushes versus Zerg. Started doing very cost-efficient trades in that matchup, and you're like, oh, okay, well, he's pretty good at that. He's really good at taking good engagements and finding cost efficiency. But it's TVZ. He's doing 2-base pushes, yeah, whatever. And then he started adding macro play to his repertoire. A lot more 3-base pushes. A lot more, maybe 8 racks in TVZ. You're like, okay, this guy's starting to get pretty good. Starts adding TVT to his repertoire. A lot more diversified build orders. Okay, this guy's looking really good. And then he shows up to BlizzCon 2018 and goes 3-2 versus Maru in the opening match of that group when it was best of 5 in the group stages. And you're like, Time? Hello? And then shows up again in DreamHack Masters Last Chance, gets to the round of 4, and takes a 1-0 lead over Maru. And I'm thinking to myself, is this the time where he has finally, damn it, I did it again. Is this where he finally breaks through and wins a premier tournament? The answer was no, but he has been on such a steady rise. We don't get to see him much because he's in the Chinese scene, but I would, as much as I've been hyping up Ryung, I would be very happy to see Time in the round of 16.
No, absolutely. And Steadfast, you're forgetting something important. WTL, or back when it was Golden Team League, which, by the way, which is why Time was signed to Katowice originally, or why he was on that, because you needed to have one Chinese player per team to compete in the GTL, back when it was that. And in that time, this is when Innovation was still on Katowice, as they were making a run to the finals. They were using Time. Time was actually the savior of Katowice Gaming's run in the semis. They sent him out for the ace match because Innovation did not want to play. He was too scared of the matchups. They sent out Time. Time won the series. They moved on to the finals, where I believe they did end up losing, so they got second place that season. But it is not just the big individual events. When you send out Time instead of Innovation as your ace match, that is a statement right there.
And unless I'm mistaken, I could be wrong. That could be the one before this. But that was the one where Innovation was like absolutely, that was right before he went to the military, was it?
It was end of 2020.
So maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure. But there was one where he went right before he went to the military, and Innovation was absolutely stomping nerds, like just absolutely taking them to pieces. And if they chose Time over Innovation during that match, and Time pulled through, man, that is a big statement about how good of a player he is. And I got to agree. I think he's one of the future players that could be on the level of a, maybe not a, well, no, actually, no, I'm not gonna count out the fact that he could be on the level of Acero. He's insanely good. He is just insanely good. Gotta talk about this game though.
Yeah, it's gonna be Banshee play out of Time in this game too, which, while not the most uncommon thing, is not really in the standard all that much. But Ryung, of course, he is well prepared. Raven on the way, Cyclone as well, and notice the Time did not commit for any sort of cloak play. Ravens are too common in this match for it to really be worth it. In fact, Ryung, I don't know exactly what he saw. Maybe this is just a standard play, but his Marines are in the perfect position. He's not going to take any damage from this.
Yeah, no, he's very well set up, and this is not free. You may think to yourself, oh, it's just a Banshee, not a big deal. But what does it delay? It delays your Raven production. Means that if you want to go and match your opponent's Raven numbers, you are going to be sacrificing Viking production. In this case, though, he's going to go just a single Raven straight up into Viking production. And I think he might try and use this Banshee as almost a pseudo-liberator as he tries to leapfrog forward with additional Vikings. We are going to be seeing Ryung starting up his own Viking production, not going for 3 Ravens, just going for the 2. So he is going to be able to match his opponent's Viking production, assuming that it is Time being the one aggressive. Ryung will be able to get his Vikings out in time with enough. There's no replacement for that word, is there?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. If you're talking about having, you can talk about opportunity instead of having time to do it. And in general, I really enjoy. We talked about this in the first TVT we did today, Special versus Ryung, where Ryung, he plays with Widowmines a little bit more than most Terrans in this matchup, because Widowmines, they don't one-shot workers, they don't really one-shot much of anything in TVT, but it's such a cheap little way to find vision. And if you get heavy splash damage on an early game Terran push, it works out very well. It becomes much easier to clear as Tam scans the main base, finds the barracks timing, finds the third base timing. He knows just about everything that Ryung is doing, but that's also going to tell him that, okay, this Ryung is probably built enough. I'm not going to be able to get too much done here. Let me back up. Maybe find a different way to be on the map. But for now, third base on the way for both sides.
Yeah, it is worth noting as well that Time did see the timing on his opponent's engineering base. He did see when they were thrown down. There we go. I just need to plan my sentences more. Much like how Ryung plans his engagements, very methodically.
Hey.
So dumb. We are going to be seeing the faster upgrades, though, for Ryung. Time really wants to get something done with this push. He does have the Viking lead, but in terms of Vikings here, well, no, there's more. Oh my goodness, and the Raven's going to go down. We do see Ryung getting it, being able to drop all those auto turrets so there, and the tanks in a good position will help them. Well, actually, no, the position is held from Time, and this is a really nasty situation for Ryung to deal with. Oh, the tanks do move forward, and they are in range. Scan's going to come down, though, and will allow Ryung to pick off that tank, so he doesn't lose the tank duel. Very, very crucial. Is Time going to rally more units into this? Yes, he is, including more Vikings. This is going to be so difficult to dislodge, but Stim is done for both players, so if Ryung can get out a few Marines, he might be able to still clean this up.
Yes, that's fast. That was almost a brilliant engagement there for Ryung. We saw the tanks 2 and 3. They were so low. One tank shot a piece each. But the auto turrets, they died just quick enough. Good target fire there from Time. Meant that it was not really all that easy for Ryung to get on in. And now he's actually going to win the Viking fight, which means that there's less vision on the low ground. Theoretically, you can land the Vikings kill off those tanks. But for now, this defensive position from Ryung, it is still under threat. Time still at that strong pushing position. Every time he drops a scan, he gets more damage done. He kills off more SCVs. He forces more repair. Here's the thing. Ryung's upgrades are done just about now. If he can sweep in with a bunch of 1-1 Marines, that should be enough to knock Time from this position, and Time knows it. He's going to back up. Actually, steadfast. Look at this engage that Ryung is setting up. All his armies running north.
He is trying to outmaneuver his opponent. Time does not have anything to spot this. This could turn into a base trade, and in fact, I think it will. Ryung was looking to beat his opponent back across the map. What is instead going to happen is that Time bluffed going home, so now they're going to go for a full-on base trade, and Ryung, he didn't have the gases in his base, so we will be able to cancel them, but he is going to lose this command center most likely. Ryung wants to go straight for the natural. Very nice siege position on this tank from Time, but Ryung will keep his tanks on siege, go after it, takes it on down, gets his units into a good position, is going to be able to take down all of his opponent's SCVs. Meanwhile, other side of the map, we do have the SCVs being pulled by Ryung, but the Marines get taken down very quickly. There is a tank on the high ground. Ryung very, very much outfighting his opponent during this space trade scenario. And Time, he's gonna go home, but he can't afford to. He's lost so many SCVs, and the armory will go down as well.
That fast. It's a base trade for Ryung's life in this tournament. He will gladly trade his base for another shot at Time in game number 3. 4 tanks are sieged up. Time is going to have to pull from the main and the natural to make something happen. But look at this, Ryung, who surrounds the surrounder. Ryung does. These 4 tanks, they're sieged up, but with the army of Ryung on the high ground here, he has vision. He's going to start shelling away at this position, this last army of Time. That's not going to work out for Time here. He's not microing. The 2 tanks, they're so low. One has so little HP, 7 left. But Ryung now, he has the full surround. There is no natural. No, actually, I think the 3rd base is sitting over the tanks of Time here. Ryung with a huge supply lead, although not in army. I think the play, honestly, from Ryung. Oh, he saves the tank.
The pickup. Let's go.
Oh, the Widowmine from the early game.
Are you kidding me? Ryung, do you believe in miracles?
I believe in miracles. I believe in serious planning, because that Widowmine was set there 2 minutes ago. Look at this 3rd base positioning, by the way. There's no use for here, as now Time's going to try to break it, but no, that's just a bait. Ryung coming in from the other side. He says, okay, you kill my army, that's fine. I'm going to put you on 1 base, but he does not have enough DPS. Not yet. The 3rd base, the 3rd orbital, it stays alive for just a little bit longer. And as good of a position this is for Ryung, look at the supply indeed. None of the orbitals have died. Ryung did lose 1 of his, so it's a big mining advantage for Ryung. It's not quite as bad for Time as one might otherwise think. And make no mistake, it is not a good situation for the Chinese Terran.
No, it is not. He's got no armory, no 2-2 on the way. In fact, he lost one of his engineering bays. He can't really afford to replace that. He's got plenty of gas. So much gas, but he was only mining on 1 base. 2 of his bases were lifted for such a long time. However, this move from Time is a brilliant one. The double drop, he's gonna try and get in, will get in before his opponent's 2-2 is completed. 16 Marines is nothing to despise. You've got to take this so seriously. But Ryung, he's got the units. He's going to push it away. Almost gets the medevac, but it does survive. That Viking could have been a hero. Oh, but Ryung,
he's gonna find it.
Ryung, he's on the hunt.
One more
he's going
stim.
after it. Boost is on cooldown. We are going to see these units just barely not able to reach. Time gets away. It's a massive supply lead still for Ryung, though. And GG is called. We're going to game 3.
Yeah, we are. Ryung trading his base for another chance at life in this series. And again, he'll absolutely take that trade. Man, what a great move from Ryung, realizing that, okay, if my opponent is on the other side of the map, if he has this strong sieged up position, I can go the other side. I can either cut his army off and take a really good fight, or I can have first mover's advantage, and he's not going to be expecting me to do this, so he's not going to push into my 3rd all that quickly. So all the income, really, we talked about that game. Do you kill the command centers or do you kill the SCVs? Ryung opted for the SCVs. Time opted for the command center. Mules are good, Steadfast, but they don't make up for a 30-40 SCV deficit.
No, they certainly do not, and very, very reasonable to tap out in that situation. He got deflected. He knew he was going to be very far behind. Man, that was so razor's edge and so close to being just a 2-0 for Time, straight up. One, the push on the 3rd base with Ryung initially caught out of position, caught unprepared. He dropped out his auto turrets, wasn't able to take down his opponent's army, had a rough time dealing with it. But he waited until just barely he got enough Vikings. He just barely got enough. It was 4 Vikings to 4, but he had the aggregate HP lead by a hair, by the smallest margin. And that was enough to allow him to force Time back. And what did he do once he cleared the air? He didn't move forward. He knew his opponent would need to scan to threaten that command center. So he's just patient and then goes for that counterpunch. With the counterattack, goes up to the ramp, targets down that 1 siege tank, staying on siege at the natural, is able to outfight the SCVs and the units. What an engagement from Ryung. What a well-handled base trade. And I am still on board this hype train. It's not going away.
No, it's not. And Steadfast, as an update on the mainstream right now, Dark is up 1-0 on Showtime after a 25-odd minute game. So this series still matters a tremendous amount. It's game number 3. Berlingrad is that map, Steadfast. Let's tune in for some violence.
Don't worry, it's been a long day. I'm sure you'll have to bear with us, just like you're gonna have to bear with me. Absolutely hyping the crap out of this guy up in the top left, representing Team GP. It is the old man, Papa Bear Ryung, back from the military.
And his opponent in the bottom right, looking to ruin the steadfast stay for Katowice Gaming. He is Time.
And you know what? I want to explain why I'm being such a I'm just so excited about Ryung, because as a guy who is, you know, I'm into my 30s. I just turned 32 in November. I am no spring chicken, and I gotta say, I've been feeling the effects of that. My hands, they're not as quick as they used to be. I don't think as quickly as I used to. I'm just not the player I used to be. I'm not as fast. So for me to see Ryung coming in at the age that he is, at 31 years old, or 30, I don't know, doesn't matter. Turning 31, it's whatever. To see him doing as well as he has done with the way he has been playing this StarCraft, it gets me so excited in my bones.
Yeah, Steadfast, remember back a couple years ago when we had a changeover really from Kespa from ESF into Kespa, and everyone's talking about how, wow, this player is 23, he cannot play the game anymore, he's going to age out, and old people can't play StarCraft. Well, certainly we've seen the proof to that lie. Not just here. Hero, even if he didn't qualify out of the round of 36, looks good. DRG has looked really good at times. These players coming back from the military, Classic, unfortunately, was not able to fill in for Katowice, did not qualify 3 points. Also looking really good. These players that are coming back, and 2 years from military, a little bit older in the scene, well, they're still showing us that just because they got a little bit extra years, they're still top tier players.
You know, sometimes on your character sheet, your strength, your dexterity, maybe they start to take a hit. Maybe they go down. But your wisdom and your intelligence, well, in Ryung's case, they have shot up. And he has been compared to the Lambo of Korea. He is the build order architect. And we're seeing why. He has done some amazing stuff, but even with a win here, he still has to rely on a little bit of help. Even if he wins here, Showtime cannot win any of his next series, and Time would have to drop another map, I believe, to Special in order for, or Ryung would have to take a game off of Dark. Either one of those would have to happen for Ryung to be able to make it through. Once again, if Time wins this one, I am still going to be very happy that Time has made it through, because I love Time as a player. He has made some great maneuvers, and I'm really ready for him to be, well, to be a global threat.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting in this series. Game 1, we had Ryung and Time do the exact same thing through, what, 4 minutes, 5 minutes in that game. The build was totally identical. In this game 3, we are seeing a bit difference in play. Ryung going for a couple more Reapers, going for a Hellion, going for a Cyclone, as Time looks to give himself a little bit more aggressive options by getting that tank early, maybe going up for a Siege Up, something like that, skipping the Cyclone. But look at it, we saw the Widowmine position, and I think he moved it, but really cool idea. Both players going for Widowmine, I guess Time did it as well. But Ryung went and sieged up his Widowmine in the spot in the 3rd mineral line, which you might say, why would you do that? Well, you go, and that is the position that Time, if he looks to go for a tank, medevac Cs, 1 medevac, 2 tanks, something like that, that is where he's going to siege up. So Widowmine going off right there gives so much utility, makes that hold so much easier, and that is exactly what Time is doing, because Steadfast, this map is Berlingrad, and that's what everyone does.
Yeah, this is going to be a very aggressive move out from Time right here. Ryung scans what he's looking for. He wants to see if there's a reactor on this starport already, and he sees that there is. He knows he is going to have to greet this army, sees that it is already on his doorstep. He'll gather his units together. He'll start his own Viking production, but this could be very, very tough for him. But he's met the attack early, and this is the best case scenario for Ryung.
It is so good for Ryung here that he does not allow Time to siege up his main, because that's when things start to get very annoying. The Widowmine is not going to be all that consequential for both sides. I've never seen the Widowmine a part of this push before or this defense, so it's really interesting that both Ryung and Time have opted to go for it. But still, even as Time looks to push forward, he is going to start to siege up a little bit more. Ryung is buying so much time for himself to get out more Vikings, to have established more air control. He's going to get a nice shot from that tank as well. And this solid defensive playstyle that Ryung is playing for is buying him so much time. But there we go. We're going to see the tank disabled. Ryung not quick enough on the fingers that time, but the tanks on the left side actually is going to make this really nice. We're going to see a bunch of those Marines go down, even as he does lose one. Ryung, he's actually in a fairly nice position to hold this.
Yeah, this is not so bad. The interference matrix was a little bit wasted right there. Oh, if he loses that reactor, that is so bad. He won't be able to outproduce his, or well, match his opponent's production. In terms of Vikings, he does lose that reactor. Supply depot going down as well. Doesn't supply block Ryung.
Tanks are in range of stim. That's a big problem here if Time holds high ground vision anymore. And yeah, 2 Vikings versus 1 is a lot more important, but of course, defender's advantage might give Ryung a little bit of a timing where even if he's not producing as much, he will have more in the fight just now. There goes Raven. Actually, the Vikings are going to land. That is dead stim. Time returning the favor after game number 1. Although, in fairness, Time won that game where he had his stim snipe, so we're going to have to see whether Ryung can do something similar. There's not a lot of room for Time to get too much more done here. The army is set up in a really nice spot. And actually, Time has given away his Viking lead, which means Ryung should eventually be able to clean this up.
Yeah, this was not the play from Time. Now, he had no way of knowing this, but that stim from Ryung was not far along, so this was actually not as valuable of a pickoff as he thinks it was. That's a big tank shot right there. I think did he take out a Cyclone? There's a couple Marines, it looks like. Almost got one of the Cyclones. This is still a very nasty position for Ryung to deal with, and the big problem for Ryung right now is that Time has got his third base landed, but Ryung, he took the third base on the left side. So he's kind of chilling. Oh, this is a very nicely set up spread of tanks. Vikings are going to land it. They are going to be able to get in on top of this thanks to the interference matrices. The concave for Ryung is quite good, and he will actually be able to clean all of this up and is going to come out of this with a lot of tanks left over.
That was a huge fight from Ryung in this game, attacking into stimmed bio because Time, he has skipped his he skipped his armor upgrade once again. Don't know if that was on purpose or not, but certainly he does have stim much faster than Ryung even had an idea of. Even still, the Marines were not where they needed to be. Time was able to take the fight before the Marines were really relevant, knocking all that down. Nets himself a nice supply lead. He's in 3 base play. He's mining as well as he could like. This game is going to go on steadfast, and the longer this game goes, again, I really do feel like I favor Ryung. His mastery of the late game, we've been talking about it all last 2 days, but there's a reason we've been talking about it.
Yeah, and he's gone for this double tech lab setup once again. This is now the second time where his stim has been sniped, and it will not cost him the game for the second time because he goes for this double tech lab setup. Does it suck? Yeah, sure. You get 1 less Marine per round of Marines, or you have a wasted tech lab. What else sucks? Losing the game because he didn't have combat shields at a relevant timing. But what does he have that his opponent does not? 1-1. And the armory is very well timed. He's going to be able to immediately start up 2-2. Needs to, he didn't have the gas for that +2 armor just right away, but very much on top of it. Many times, players in this matchup forget their upgrades. Ryung, he has forgotten his armory once, and that was, I think, only as a result of an extremely high-pressure situation. Other than that, he's been very diligent about that.
Yeah, now he's got time. Wow. He's got the ability to move out on the map right now. The pressure from Time is abated just a little bit. So Ryung stimming forward. Ideally, he delays that command center, but it's only 8 odd Marines. It's not going to be all that possible as the army of Time reacts. But Time's kind of F2ing here a little bit. His entire army is chasing down this single drop, but I guess that's because he wants to get aggressive on his own anyways. Certainly, though, I think if maybe Ryung picks up on this, he's going to have the opportunity to find some value later on, and Ryung knows where this army is, so he's going to get first movers, first siege, and he still has Ravens on the field. He's got 2 of them. Time has none. It's going to invalidate a lot of this tank play, but for now, the third base, well, third bases are all set up. Fourth bases are getting taken here. The game does go on. Ryung not with quite as much of a supply lead as he once had, but as you said, 2-2, +1 mech attack timed out very well. Ryung he's got the intangibles, he's got that momentum, and he's going to be able to get into his tech just a little bit better.
Yeah, and I mentioned that Ryung has been doing a phenomenal job in the Vision Wars, and we saw that right there. He had some well-placed Marines, sent 2 of them forward to see if the army was still there. Yeah, loses them. Big whoop. Once again, you lose 1 or 2 Marines, who gives a crap? You didn't get out-positioned and lose the game as a result of it. Scans, keeping Travis' opponent's army. Obviously, you have a limited number of scans, so utilizing units instead of scans is sometimes the right call. And now, speaking of being caught out of position, it is going to be Time, who, despite the sensor tower, will have to rush back home. Ryung, a little bit of F2 syndrome right there. He does get some of his units chased away. Oh, the Vikings almost getting those medevacs, but Ryung is going to be able to unload, and even dodging the target fire. All the Marines will pop out. He should go after those Vikings. That should be his primary target, but he's going to go for SCVs instead, and that is also a good choice.
Yeah, you know, get the Vikings. That's a nice move. Kill 10 SCVs and find your way into the natural as well. Figure out where the army is. He's pulled the entire army of Time back into the main base. He's got so much room to do whatever he wants to do now, and immediately what do we see? Command centers coming down, sensor towers going down. Ryung getting an even better grasp of this late game as he's got into 3-3 extremely quickly. He's already up 2 upgrades. He's going to be up. He's going to continue that lead for just a little bit longer, and with additional command centers on the way, we've seen this against Special. Ryung, given just a little bit of room, he's going to start to take the map in a way that few Terrans do in this matchup.
Yeah, it's very cool. Now, he doesn't have any units in position on the right side, does have a sensor tower here, and will race back over with a significant amount of army. This is so many Marines from Time, but it is not the main force. This will force a lot of cancel on the command centers. Oh, and a big tank shot right there, and takes down one of his opponent's tanks on the front line as well. Time is down in Vikings, though. Yeah, significantly down in Vikings. And Ryung, oh my goodness, Time, what are you doing? That is a very bold siege right here. He's going to try and YOLO in with everything. Huge concave, but the anti-armor missile coming on in. Massive overstim from Ryung. Does he have enough to hold? Just barely with the help of the tanks and the planetary fortress. Ryung, he holds again. How is he doing it?
Time saying, it's my time to secure my spot in top 3 at least. Unless Showtime pulls off a miracle, but no, that was not the position you looked for there, Time. Not at all. Too many tanks, too many Ravens. That was a mistake that may secure Ryung's spot in this game. We're going to have to see. But for now, that was so expensive for Time. Ryung killing a lot more, and the tanks, they're sieged up. Yes, we have the rally finding its way in, but the air lead that Ryung has at this point means it's hard to push in. The tanks, actually, they're unsieged. Ryung, he's just going to jump on top of that, but maybe there are too many Marines. Yeah, Ryung's going to back up, but every time he forces Time back just a little bit more, the more secure he feels. That being said, Steadfast, the additional command centers that Ryung wanted to make, they were both canceled. That economic explosion that we were looking for, not really there, and Time actually finds himself up a base.
He does. That was actually a surprisingly okay situation for Time, considering everything. We do see the Raven transition is coming in the late game here. Time is going to lose this tank. Those Ravens, they're so insanely valuable. Ryung, he is on 3 starports. Time, he went for 8 barracks. He is really trying to win this with the Marine YOLO. 3-3 is about to complete for Ryung. The sensor tower still sees this army, but, well, not anymore. Oh, those tanks. Oh, these tanks. Okay, he will stay out of range of them, but just barely.
Yeah, we have Time here really committing hard to a lot of Marines early, just try to make the game not go late. We saw how powerful Ryung was, but when you're down upgrades, your Marines are so paper. How quickly Marines fire, how little HP they have, it feels so bad here as, oh no, we're gonna see Time look to siege up but lose a tank pretty quickly. And again, Time's running in. We're gonna have to see something. Your auto turrets get dropped. The tanks are there, but Ryung, he has an upgrade lead. You're not taking this fight, Time. It's not gonna work at all. The tanks are falling. Ryung stimming in. And for his life, for this game in this tournament, once again, Time not wanting to go to the late game against the Master, but Ryung dragging Time, kicking and screaming into that setup where he has the advantage.
He is looking so comfortable, so patient, and Ryung finds himself up significantly in supply, way ahead in tech. The upgrades will equalize very shortly, but for that whole fight, they were not. You know what the MVP of that fight was? The missile turret. The missile turret bunched up Time's units so heavily right there. And Time, he is continuing to just pump out pure Marines, no additional starports. He's not heading into that end game composition that you so desperately need. He will find this planetary fortress before it is fully morphed on in, but Ryung, well, he needs to repair this. He needs to repair it or lift. He's gonna lose the base, and that will reset the 5th base. No more 5th base for you, says Time. Ryung, he is gonna start to run out of money very soon.
Yeah, but you gotta remember, it's a 5,000 resources loss differential right now. Time, as much as he has money, sure, you can't throw it away to infinity. You gotta make sure that you start trading at least some way, shape, or form better, but there's a large limit to that one. Each base is about 16,000 resources. Time is up 2 bases on Ryung right now. One was fine. One, with how Time is playing, how Ryung is playing, Ryung was going to be pretty happy about that. But very quickly, we're going to see that supply deficit start to equalize. So what is Ryung doing? He's running across the map once again. It found a ton of success in game 1, or excuse me, game 2. Might game 3, but no, he's going to be forced back here. He sees where the army is. And again, Time looking for the surround, but you got to learn here, Time. You don't run into tanks like that. Oh, and there we go. Nice Raven play as well. These Marines, they're paper. The tanks are going to go down. Time again is going to try to take this fight because he's got tanks on the backside. But look at the Marines fall down.
Tank fire, a Pyrrhic loss right there. A massive victory for Ryung, and Time once again shows us why he is so comfortable in this matchup, why he is a master, and why with no prep going into IEM Katowice, he's still looking like he might be able to make it happen. But Time is coming in with a counterattack on the other side. Ryung gonna pull the SCVs, but there are a lot of 3-3 Marines right here. Takes down all the tanks, and Ryung, well, it is gonna be a base trade, and this could get messy very quickly.
Yes, that fast. Ryung is going to trade a base for a base here, but you gotta remember, A, it's a planetary. It takes a whole hell of a lot longer to break through it. B, Ryung has been on 4 bases. It looks like he's got his 5th base just now, but that is a base that is long in coming. He also loses 20 SCVs. Not a lot of mining there. So Time can afford to lose this. He has a base on the 12 o'clock position or 6 o'clock position. He has a base up at the 2 o'clock. He's all over the map. He's trying to constrict things here. And even as we see Ryung take masterful after masterful after masterful fight and the resources loss differential increases, it's still a problem because Time is just mining so much more. He's gonna find this base once again. It's not a planetary. Ryung not on it just yet, but he's gonna see just tanks up at the low ground. Armor shuttle again. It's a 3 base Ryung. He's not mining at this point in the game, but he's gonna be able to position himself, knock down another army of Time, and maybe, just maybe, that's what he needs. Ryung, he's got 1 army left.
Oh, he's gonna try and come in, but the anti-armor missile is still off and running. This is not the fight Time. You cannot take this. Ryung, he is gonna take game 3, and he keeps his hopes alive of advancing into the bracket stage of IEM Katowice.